What's up everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we've got Eric Nicksick looking to oust a judge, Jack Hermansson, the poet, Joe Rogan in the news again, and much more. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel to see more videos just like this. Now let's get into it. Sean Strickland's coach calls for dismissal of fight judge after scorecard is released. Sal D'Amato is one of the more well-known judges and is perhaps the most commonly used in the sport. The Nevada State Athletic Commission hired him many times for many MMA events over the years. But this past Saturday, he was the lone judge to score the main event for Jack Hermansson, which made it a split decision win for Sean Strickland. Given that Strickland still had his hand raised, it wasn't incredibly egregious. Still, D'Amato has curried controversy in the past for his prior decisions. But last Saturday was the last straw for Strickland's coach, Eric Nicksick. The Extreme Couture coach went on a tirade on Twitter, posting a photo from MMADecisions.com, which tracks scoring from the media and the judges themselves. No one, from the media to the judges, scored the fight for Hermansson, except for Sal D'Amato. Case in point, this is what Nicksick wrote on Twitter. Not even one media member scored it for Jack. I know we won, but if this guy is still judging, he will continue to make egregious decisions and ultimately cost fighters their careers and livelihoods. #FireSal. Strickland clearly won the fight, despite his frustrations about not putting Hermansson away, and it remains to be seen who Strickland will be matched up against next. Still, many people believe D'Amato should no longer be called on to judge MMA fights. Do you agree with Eric Nicksick that D'Amato needs to be let go from judging? Let us know in the comments what you think. Bruce Buffer says fighters become irrelevant after leaving the UFC, and Anthony Rumble Johnson responds. Did you know that Bruce Buffer has his own podcast? It's called It's Time, and he talks about a lot of things related to MMA. As the voice of the UFC, the announcer is in a unique position to see, meet, and commiserate with the fighters. He's been with the organization almost as long as the UFC president, Dana White, and has seen it all in the fight game. But one thing he said in a recent episode has been making the rounds, and prompting at least one fighter to chime in. In a discussion about Francis Ngannou and his troubles getting a new UFC deal done, Buffer said he hopes to see the heavyweight champion re-sign with the UFC, or he could fade away. Case in point, this is what Buffer said.
No offense to other organizations, but you become irrelevant when you leave the UFC after a while.
Very great. A clip of him saying this made the rounds on Instagram and was clearly seen by many fighters, including Anthony Rumble Johnson, who in an Instagram comment, Johnson said this: "Bruce needs to stay off crack. How's anything irrelevant when providing food and shelter for family? Oh, by the way, I got paid way more for moving to another organization." Bruce has his guaranteed money so he can talk. Fighters have to wait and actually entertain people when they get the chance to make some money. Rumble didn't hold back in his response here. He's one of the fighters that Buffer would have been talking about. Anthony Rumble Johnson retired from the fight game in 2017 after fighting for the light heavyweight championship. Then he came out of retirement but into another organization, Bellator, last year. He's one of a handful of fighters who made that move for better career prospects and also for much more money. But what do you think about this whole situation? Do you agree with Bruce Buffer? And what are your thoughts on Anthony Johnson's response here? Amanda Nunes speaks on why she left American Top Team to start her own gym. December 2021, Amanda Nunes fans got the shock of their life as she dropped the UFC Women's Bantamweight title to heavy underdog Juliana Pena in the co-main event at UFC 269. That wasn't the only thing that Nunes left behind in December. After the fight, we learned that Nunes was leaving her longtime MMA home, American Top Team in Florida, in favor of starting her own gym with her wife Nina, who is also a fellow UFC fighter. Many people believe that she was leaving due to the loss against Pena. Remember, Nunes was an overwhelming favorite for that fight, and many people in the media looked past Pena as a viable contender. After the loss, some people were connecting the dots and they believed that she was leaving ATT to get better training for the rematch. But as it turns out, that's not exactly the case. This is what she said in a recent interview on ESPN.
You know, like I say, after all this done, I want to be a coach. So when I say I want to open a gym, I didn't say I'm going to open a public gym. I want to open a private space. You know, if I have to start over, I want to do something the way I want to do. So it's going to be something that I want to do
A change of scenery could be good for Nunes, who had made ATT her home for years. Both Nunes and the newly crowned champ, Pena, will be coaching on season 30 of The Ultimate Fighter, filming for which is slated to start sometime this month and will feature women's flyweights as well as men's heavyweights. The whole thing will culminate in a highly anticipated rematch for the UFC women's bantamweight belt. What do you think about Nunes' comments regarding her new gym?
Yeah, March 5th, it's a career-ending fight for Jorge Masvidal. He's talked a big game, Jesse, to the media. And just like Joe Biden, they talk a big game, but they don't walk a big game. And March 5th on pay-per-view, I'm going to expose journeyman Jorge Masvidal in front of the world.
It's so amazing that I'm going to get to punch this guy in the face. And I really don't like this guy. And I'm going to get paid for it a big amount of money. And I can't wait just to expose him once again to the world. He's a charlatan. He's, you know, if you don't believe me, just ask him what's his favorite law that Trump passed while Trump was in presidency or anything like that. Ask that idiot anything politically related. You'll see he's just a fraud, man. He's just holding up books to get triggers and things like that, but he doesn't know anything about what he talks about. And about fighting, he's very limited, and I'm going to show him March 4th how limited he is.
Don't forget to take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on the latest fight news. Following Spotify controversy, Joe Rogan received support from Brazil's president. Joe Rogan has become a polarizing figure due to his podcast and frequent guests, for better or worse. He's on Spotify on a multi-million-dollar deal and has a reach of over 406 million monthly users. But people are taking issue with some of the things that a few of his recent guests have said regarding COVID-19 and vaccines. Neil Young and Joni Mitchell pulled their music from the platform after saying that Spotify should do something about Rogan's, quote, misinformation. Spotify didn't do anything, and now Young and Mitchell are out of the platform. Now, it looks like Spotify might be adding a warning or a label or some kind to tell listeners that there could be possible misinformation. But regardless of what the platform does or doesn't do, many people have been vocal about their support for Rogan. And now you can add Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro to that list. This is what Bolsonaro tweeted in regards to Joe Rogan. I'm not sure what Joe Rogan thinks about me or about my government, but it doesn't matter. If freedom of speech means anything, it means that people should be free to say what they think, no matter if they agree or disagree with us. Stand your ground. Hugs from Brazil. What do you make of Bolsonaro's support for Joe Rogan? Jack Hermansson's poetic reaction to Sean Strickland loss. Saturday was a tough fight between two amazing warriors in Sean Strickland and Jack Hermansson in the middleweight division. The two came into the fight in the top 10 of the middleweight division, with a possible title shot not too far in the future for the winner. While Hermansson mixed things up with his kicks, punches, and takedown attempts, he ultimately was outclassed by a very patient Strickland, who was able to avoid the takedowns and made a home for his jab. Still, it's not like Hermansson is taking the loss as a devastating event. He was pretty chummy with Strickland after the bout, and was able to put on a smile for the fans despite the outcome. This carried over to the post-fight press conference and beyond, as he posted a lighthearted apology to his fans about how the fight went. This is what Hermansson wrote on social media. "I'm sorry fans about tonight. I had a bad performance and I lost a fight. It wasn't pretty or technically sound. I couldn't get the bastard to the ground. Sorry, Sean, this one went to a decision. Best of luck to murder your next competition." Hey, that's not bad. Hermansson is still in the top 10 of the division, and as tough as they come. Strickland, meanwhile, is likely to face either the loser of the Israel Adesanya vs. Robert Whittaker fight next week, or another highly ranked middleweight fighter. If he continues to rack up the wins, who knows? A fight for the belt could be in his future as soon as this year. But what do you think of Hermansson's poem? Thanks so much for joining us today and catching up on all things MMA. What do you think of what's going on in the fight world? Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all the latest news from the MMA world. See you next time.